college football has a quitting problem. I was all for guys being able to transfer whenever they wanted to, being granted instant eligibility to play, but I'm not for guys quitting on their teams mid-season just because they get benched or they're not getting the playoff time they feel they deserve. And with how this is going, it's going to make it incredibly difficult for a lot of teams that have depth. The transfer portal is the biggest reason why Georgia is struggling this season. They don't have a lot of depth at receiver, on the offensive line, on defense. Every time people ask Kirby Smart about Georgia's depth issue, how does he feel about it? He says we have depth at no position because it's hard to keep depth when guys instantly transfer, when they know they're not going to start, when they know they're about to lose their job, and it hurts you in the middle of the season because the thing that these guys who are transferring mid-season fail to understand is that you're always one injury away from getting an opportunity. And in football, one man's misfortune can turn into another man's opportunity. But with all of these guys getting in their feelings when they don't start or they're not getting a lot of snaps, they feel like, you know what, I'm just finna hit the portal, and you don't even give it until the season's end. You're just flat out quitting on your team, which is something that I don't agree with. And it's hard to field a competitive team consistently when you don't know who's going to stay and who's going to leave. At this point, you don't know when your players are going to transfer. You don't even know if the guys that are your second stringers right now, any day, could just say, you know what? I don't want to play no more. I'm just going to redshirt the rest of the season, and I'm going to enter my name in the portal. It's hard to establish, rules and regulations in the NCAA because of how many teams there are. Every conference having different rules and guidelines, and it just isn't a good regulation body in terms of keeping these transfer issues under wraps. Because I don't feel like it's fair to these coaches or it's fair to these teams that these players can just quit whenever they want to in the middle of the season and hurt the team in terms of depth. And I actually feel like it's pretty soft. I know a few homies that transfer that aren't playing right now, and they are going to transfer, but they're not quitting on their team mid-season. I feel like it's really a sucky situation right now to be in if you're Kirby Smart. And I get it that a lot of you guys don't feel bad for these coaches because your logic is these coaches can up and leave whenever they want to for new jobs. And that is true. But these coaches, although they may have their mind made up on leaving for a better job, they're not quitting on their teams in the middle of the season. They're leaving for these new jobs once the season is over. These players are quitting on their teams, and we still got 3-4 more games left, not including the bowl games, the playoff games. You don't know who ahead of you could get injured. And the transfer portal is now starting to be a big problem in college football. What used to be something that everybody wanted has now become a nightmare because teams don't have depth. And now you got guys that just have the power to up and leave whenever they want to. It's to the point now where you've created a really bad environment when it comes to the honesty between the player and coach, because now coaches can't afford to be upfront with players about where they rank on the depth chart. If you are a guy who's a backup, the coach may not be wanting to tell you you're a backup because he knows that he's going to need you in case one guy gets injured. You're the next man up, but you don't want to stay and be the backup because you feel you're good enough to start elsewhere. And that's where the problem lies. That's why you got a lot of players who complain about the dishonesty with coaches when they're in a situation where they got no choice but to be dishonest, because if they tell the truth and they tell you that you're the second or third stringer, you're going to transfer and they're not going to have any depth. And these players are a little bit stupid, in my opinion, because they fail to understand that football is a very violent and physical sport. Guys drop like flies left and right. You can't watch a single football game now without at least two guys getting injured during the game. And when injuries happen, that's your chance to step up, take advantage of the opportunity. And if you outplay the guy who is starting in front of you, you potentially could take his job or set yourself up for a better opportunity elsewhere because you got film out there. I had a homeboy last year that played for FAU. He was a preferred walk-on. He entered the transfer portal. And when he entered the portal, I hit him up. I was like, bro, what the hell are you doing entering the portal? You have the opportunity as a walk-on player with the new coaching staff that doesn't know who any of you guys are to, set a good precedent for yourself. You got a clean slate. And if you're good enough in his eyes, he's not going to care if you're a preferred walk-on. He's not going to know that. And when he types your name up in the computer and sees that you're a preferred walk-on, he's going to offer you a scholarship instantly. When you get a new head coach, it's a new opportunity to prove yourself because you got a clean slate. Nobody's holding anything against you. But he told me that he was entering the portal because he was looking to get paid. I said, dude, how are you going to get paid when you only got 5 snaps from last season? What game film do you have to warrant getting a big payday? You feel me? So you know what he did after I had that conversation with him? He deleted his transfer post. He withdrew his name out of the portal. And he still is a member of FAU's football team. You see, it's hard to get a scholarship to play Division I football and college football. No matter if you're playing at Kennesaw State or Alabama, I always got a lot of respect for anybody that gets offered the opportunity to play at the highest level of college football because a lot of people don't understand how difficult it is to get that, how difficult it is to even have the opportunity to play football on scholarship for free at a school like FAU, FIU, USF. They may be irrelevant in terms of the rest of the landscape in college football, but at least it gives you an opportunity to get to the next level. If you transfer out, there's a good chance that you may end up having to bump down a step. I know guys that played at Alabama, that played at Miami, and ended up finishing their careers playing NAIA. You go from playing in sold-out stadiums of 70,000 to playing in a stadium that only sits 150 people because you weren't willing to wait your turn. You weren't willing to understand that in football, one man's misfortune can turn into your opportunity. The NCAA has to do something about this transfer problem, this quitting problem. There's a rumor on the street that when Lincoln Riley benched Miller Moss, he instantly transferred. Are you kidding me? The dude who you're the backup to now may get injured the next game, and you may be right back in the fold as the starter again. We got a quitting problem in college football, and it's hurting the sport. That's why Georgia's having a down season, because they don't have depth. Same thing with Ohio State. Same thing with a lot of other teams. A lot of people felt the transfer portal would bring more parity in college football. And that's happened to some degree. But it also has hurt more teams than it's benefited, because no coach, no matter if you're coaching at FAU, FIU, Kennesaw State, or Alabama, knows who's going to be on their roster when they wake up. When you're Kellen DeBoer and you wake up, a third stringer could transfer. You could have your fourth string wide receiver transfer, and then 3 of your starters get injured, and you have no depth. Look at Oklahoma this year. Oklahoma has been depleted with injuries everywhere. Offensive line, receivers, and they have no depth because a lot of those guys who would have been depth, who could have been solid contributors, are in the portal because they quit on their team.